Hi guys, it's February 24th. Tonight's homework is lesson 21 homework, G, H, I, and J. So we talked in class about the idea that to go from a fraction to a decimal, we need to make sure that we have an equivalent fraction that has some magic denominators of 10, 100, or 1,000 in 5th grade. Okay, and the reason why we want those an equivalent fraction that has 10, 100, or 1,000 as the denominator is because that matches up really nicely with our place value chart. So our place value chart, as you know, has the ones place. Then to the right of the decimal is my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. So if I can get a fraction in terms of an equivalent fraction that has 10, 100, or 1,000 on the bottom, we can transfer it right over to the place value chart and write it as a decimal. I'll show you what I mean. So our first one here is 23/25. So I always start with 10 as my denominator and see if there's any way I can multiply something times 25 to get to 10, or 25 times something equals 10. And obviously there's not. 25 is bigger than 10. So I want to start by just bumping that out one more zero, and we'll look at hundredths as our denominator. Now I think in terms of quarters, and I know 4 quarters equals $1. Each quarter is 25 cents, and $1 is 100 cents. So I know that if I multiplied 25 times 4, I would get 100. Now we're finding equivalent fractions here, right? So equivalent fractions, we don't want to change the overall value. We want to make sure whatever fraction we're multiplying the original fraction by is something that is equivalent to 1 whole. And in order for a fraction to be equal to 1 whole, the top of the fraction needs to match the bottom of the fraction. Here, if we have fourths on the bottom, we need to have 4 on the top, 4 fourths. Again, when we multiply a number by a fraction equal to 1 whole, we're going to get an equivalent fraction. We're going to not change the overall value. We'll just change the units that it's described in. So we're going from 25ths to hundredths. Okay, so 25 times 4 is 100. 23 times 4, I'm going to go over to the side and do that math. And I see it that that's 92. So 23 times 4 on the top is 92. We have 92 hundredths now. Now I'm going to take that numerator and write it down, 92. But it's 92 hundredths. So I look back at my place value chart. And for 92 hundredths, that last digit needs to land in the hundredths. It would be 0.92. Right, and we'll put that placeholder 0 in the ones place. So here's 92 hundredths, 0.92 as a decimal. Next we have 89 fiftieths. Now 89 fiftieths, I can't go from 50 to 10 using multiplication, but I can go to 100. So I know that I would multiply by 2. 50 times 2 is 100 because 2 groups of 50 equals 100. Again, I want to make sure this is 1 whole. So if I'm multiplying the bottom by 2, I need to multiply the top by 2. So on the top, I have 89 times 2, which I'm going to go to the side and multiply that. 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17. So we have 178 hundredths here. Now, to think of what that looks like as a decimal, 178 hundredths, that 8 in 178, this 8 needs to be in the hundredths place. So if the 8 is here, that 7's here, and the 1 is here, 1.78. So there we go. 178 hundredths is 1 in 78 hundredths, 1.78. Now, I and J are different. We have mixed numbers here. So I talked in class about different strategies you could use to solve these. You can change your mixed number into an improper fraction and follow the same procedure as above. Or we talked about the fact that we look at the mixed number. 3 and 11 25ths. I know the 11 25ths part is less than 1 whole. So when we say 3 and 11 25ths, I know that it's going to be 3 point something. Now I take that 11 25ths separately, and I am going to convert that to a decimal. I know, again, 25 times 4 equals 100. So if I do 11 times 4 on top, I get 44. 44 hundredths as a decimal is 0.44, but that's not my final answer because I have this 3 whole here. So what we're essentially doing is we're taking that 3 whole, we're adding that 44 hundredths, and we get an answer of 3 and 44 hundredths right there. So 3 and 11 25ths is equivalent to 3 and 44 hundredths. Okay, so now J, we're going to do that same process here. We look at the fraction and make sure it's less than 1 whole. And 41 50ths is less than 1 whole. So our whole number here is going to be 5. 5 and 41 50ths, we have our whole number 5. I'm going to take that 41 50ths separately, and we are going to change that to a decimal. 50 times 2 is 100, so I need to times 2 on the top. 41 times 2 is 82. 82 hundredths as a decimal, 0.82. Now that's not my final answer because don't forget my 5 whole here, so I take my 0.82 and we're going to add those together. Remember when we add and subtract decimals, we line up place values. So you can put your zeros there to hold the places, but we have 0 plus 2 is 2. 8 plus 0 is 8. Bring down my decimal. 5 plus 0 is 5. So we have 5 and 82 hundredths as your final answer here. Good luck with your homework, guys. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.